The day Rosie arrived, the world got suspicious. Not government conspiracy suspicious, more like the universe just winked at me and now my treat jar feels less safe suspicious. Rosie looked like Emmi's reflection got bored of mirrors and decided to move to another state. Same deadgrass coat, same amber eyes, same proud Chessie smile that says, "I am sweet, but also I could absolutely tow a canoe if I felt like it." If you put them side by side, you need a name tag system or a mild panic attack. Rosie came for a visit with her human dad, who smelled like road trips and coffee and the kind of jackets that hold secrets in their pockets. Rosie smelled like cold water and ambition. And as soon as Emmi realized Rosie was basically her with a passport, the two of them did what identical spirits always do. They formed a coalition. Not a friendship, a treaty. A treaty with clauses and paws in the air and a suspicious amount of eye contact whenever the word snack was spoken within a 5-mile radius. That's when I caught them. Colluding. It started with a sound. A crinkle. Not just any crinkle. The sacred crinkle. The one that makes a dog's ears snap up like antennas catching a secret broadcast from the snack dimension. I reached for a bag, thinking I was alone. I wasn't. Emmi was sitting too still, which is always the first sign of a plan. Dogs don't sit too still unless they're either A, guilty, B, plotting, or C, trying to convince you they are, in fact, a statue and therefore entitled to free cheese. Rosie was beside her, matching the posture perfectly. It looked like a synchronized swimming routine, except the pool was my kitchen and the water was danger. I paused mid-crinkle. Both dogs blinked at the same time. Not blink-blink like normal living beings, more like we acknowledge you have intercepted the transmission. "Okay," I said slowly, "why are you both sitting like that?" Their tails wagged, but low, controlled, like two little metronomes of mischief. Rosie's human dog walked in and laughed. "They're twins," he said, like that explained everything. It did not. It explained nothing and everything at the same time. Emmi stood and walked over to the back door as if she simply wanted a normal, harmless potty break. Rosie followed, shoulder to shoulder. Their coats brushed like two pieces of wheat in a breeze. Then Emmi looked back at me, and I swear to you she had the face of a dog who had already packed. Chesapeake Bay Retrievers have a special talent. Yes, they can retrieve. Yes, they can swim through water that makes humans instantly consider becoming indoor people forever. But their real power? Communication without words. A sideways look, a snort, a tiny huff that says, Phase 1 is underway. That night, I watched Emmi and Rosie in the living room. They're humans, Rosie's dad and I, were talking. There was laughter, there were cozy blankets, there was a bowl of popcorn that should not have been left within gravitational range of two professional food seekers. The dogs lay on the rug, pretending to nap, but their eyes were open just enough to be dangerous. Emmi's tail flicked once. Rosie's ear twitched twice. Emmi licked her lips slowly. Rosie did the same. I don't know how to translate it, but if you've ever seen two smart dogs coordinate, you know the moment. The air changes. The room gets tactical. Finally, Rosie rolled onto her side like a casual floppy angel, but the flop was a lie. Her paw slid across the rug and tapped Emmi's paw once. Tap. Then Emmi tapped back. Tap. Then Rosie tapped twice. Tap, tap. Emmi's head lifted a fraction. Both dogs glanced toward the kitchen, toward the cabinet, toward the treats. Then, like two spies returning to civilian life, they sighed dramatically and resumed their sleep. I stared. They stared back. And in that stare, I read a sentence as clearly as if it were written on the wall. We are leaving soon. The next morning, Rosie's dad took us all to a lake. "Just a quick swim," he said. Rosie heard swim and turned into a missile made of joy. Emmi heard swim and turned into a slightly more cautious missile made of joy because Emmi respects water but also respects the concept of, what if it is cold enough to bite me? The lake was winter blue, the kind of blue that looks beautiful and also illegal. Rosie didn't even hesitate. She launched herself in, and the water swallowed her like a magic trick. Emmi stopped at the edge, looked at the lake, looked at Rosie's dad, looked at me, and gave me a face that said, "Is she okay? Is she a sea creature? Did we bring a seal?" Rosie's head popped up, water dripping off her snout like crystal beads. Her eyes were bright, alive, thrilled. Rosie paddled in a proud circle, as if presenting the lake to the world. Then she barked once, a short, sharp sound that translated roughly to, "Come on, this is amazing." Emmi took a breath, squared her shoulders like a knight about to charge, and stepped in. The moment the cold touched her chest, she froze. She'd never been swimming in the winter before, literally. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened slightly. Then her Chessie pride kicked in, because there is nothing more powerful than a Chesapeake Bay Retriever deciding she will not be embarrassed in front of her twin. Emmi surged forward and swam, and once she swam, she remembered something old and true and golden. Water is home. Even when it's icy, even when it steals your breath for a second, even when your human mom stands on the shore making noises like, "Oh my gosh, are you sure? Are you sure?" Emmi and Rosie swam side by side, twin tides, two deadgrass torpedoes cutting through winter. And when they climbed out, shaking water everywhere like joyful chaos generators, they looked at each other with the kind of grin dogs get when they discover their matching superpowers. Rosie bumped Emmi's shoulder. Emmi bumped back. Then, in perfect unison, they turned and trotted toward the picnic table, where someone had left a bag of sandwiches. I knew it. I knew it. Their alliance wasn't just about adventure. It was about their holy trinity: swimming, chasing, food. On the drive home, Rosie's dad told the story. "The flying squirrel," he said, like he was recounting a myth. Rosie perked up in the back seat. Emmi perked up too, because Emmi doesn't actually know what a flying squirrel is, but she trusts Rosie's taste in chaos. Rosie's dad continued. "Rosie's got this little nemesis, a flying squirrel that lives near our place, and Rosie every night sits there like she's waiting for her rival to appear on the balcony." Rosie made a soft "mph" sound, as if to say, "I am vigilant. I am the night." Emmi leaned closer, nose to Rosie's ear like a tiny journalist. Rosie's dad laughed. She thinks it's a snack or a toy or possibly a tiny superhero she wants to recruit. Emmi's ears lifted. Recruit? That night, after everyone settled in, I saw it again. The paw taps, the glances, the secret solemn huddle by the back door. And then I saw Rosie and Emmi look at the window. Not the window with the couch. The other one, the one near the pantry, where the moonlight hit the floor like a spotlight. And in that light, two identical dogs sat and stared at each other the way generals do before a battle. Rosie lowered her head. Emmi lowered hers too. Rosie licked her lips once. Emmi licked hers once. Rosie blinked slowly. Emmi blinked slowly. Then Rosie stood, walked to the door, and pressed her nose against the seam like she was testing it for weaknesses. Emmi followed. Rosie looked back at me. Emmi looked back at me. The expressions were nearly identical. But if you looked closely, you could see the difference. Emmi's face said, "I love you, Mama, but destiny calls." Rosie's face said, "This house contains food. However, the world contains more food." I went to bed with that uneasy feeling you get when you sense your dogs have a plan and you are not invited. In the middle of the night, I woke up, not because of noise, because of silence. The kind of silence that is suspicious. The kind of silence that means a dog is not snoring where a dog should be snoring. I sat up. The room was dark. I whispered, "Emmi!" No response. I whispered, "Rosie?" Still nothing. Now, a normal person might have panicked. I, however, have lived with Chesapeake Bay Retrievers long enough to know the rules. If it's quiet, check the kitchen. If it's still quiet, check the garbage. If you see 2 sets of paw prints leading somewhere, assume betrayal. I crept out of bed and padded down the hall. The moonlight made the floor look like a secret map. And there, at the end of the hallway, I saw it. The back door. Slightly open, not wide, just enough for 2 determined dogs to slip through. My stomach dropped into my socks. I stepped closer. A cold breeze kissed my ankles. And in that breeze, I smelled something impossible. Freedom and dog breath. And was that peanut butter? Oh, no. Oh, no, no, no. I pulled the door open. Outside, the yard was silver with moonlight. I listened. In the distance, I heard a sound, a soft jingle. Tags, 2 sets, running.
I love my mama. I do. She smells like coffee and safety and the soft part of home. But sometimes home is too full of rules, like don't take the bread off the counter, don't lick the butter, stop trying to help with the groceries by stealing the groceries. And then Rosie came. Rosie smelled like cold lakes and brave things. Rosie looked like me. Rosie understood me. Rosie didn't just hear the call of adventure, she howled back. That night, when the humans went to sleep, Rosie sat with me under the moonlight and told me the plan with her eyes. The plan was simple. Step 1, leave quietly. Step 2, find food. Step 3, swim if possible. Step 4, if a flying squirrel appears, we negotiate. Step 5, return home like heroes. I agreed immediately because it was perfect. Also because I had already seen where Mama keeps the peanut butter. Rosie and I moved like shadows, twin shadows. We slipped through the door and into the yard. The air was cold, but our fur held warmth like secret armor. Rosie looked at me and I looked at Rosie, and we both knew what we were now. Not pets, not good girls. We were explorers. We were pirates of the pantry. We were the twin tides. We ran. The world opened. The grass brushed our legs like whispers. The neighborhood slept, unaware that 2 deadgrass Chessies were out there rewriting history. Rosie led us down the road. She moved like she knew where the best smells lived, and she did. Because Rosie had traveled. Rosie had seen places. Rosie had eaten things I had only dreamed of eating. And tonight, she was going to show me. We found the gas station the way all dogs find important places, by following the scent of snacks. It glowed like a tiny lighthouse in the night. Rosie stopped behind a bush and surveyed it like a professional. I sniffed the air. Hot dogs, chips, something sweet, something fried. I felt my soul levitate. Rosie looked at me as if to say, "This is where legends are made." The parking lot was empty. The doors were locked because it was late, but the trash can by the side of the building, oh, it was there. Large, round, innocent. A buffet disguised as a cylinder. Rosie crept forward. I crept too, but I am not as quiet as Rosie because I sometimes forget that my paws are attached to my enthusiasm. Rosie put her nose to the lid. It shifted, just a little. I saw Rosie's eyes light up like two tiny lanterns. She nudged again. The lid lifted enough for a smell to burst out like a secret. Food had been here. Food had been thrown away. Food was waiting. We began to work. Rosie nudged. I nudged. Rosie lifted. I lifted. We were two identical engineers solving the greatest problem of our time. Then, a sound. A car. Headlights slid across the lot. Rosie froze. I froze. We both turned into statues so quickly we almost became landscaping. The car rolled in slowly. It stopped at a pump. A man stepped out. He looked around, sleepy. He yawned, and then his eyes landed on us, two identical dogs, two identical stares, two identical guilty faces. His eyebrows rose. He said. Rosie wagged her tail politely. I wagged mine too, because being polite is always a good cover. He stared harder. Are you twins? Rosie tilted her head. I tilted my head the same way. He blinked, then laughed, then shook his head like he'd just met a glitch in the universe. Well, he muttered, I guess I'll be a good citizen. And then he did something that changed the entire trajectory of the night. He walked into his car and came back holding a beef jerky stick. I felt time slow. Rosie's eyes widened. My entire body leaned forward without permission. The man held it out cautiously. Okay, he said, one at a time. One at a time? Sir, you have misjudged the situation. We were a team. We were a unit. We were... Rosie stepped forward first, gentle as a diplomat, and took the jerky. She chewed, slowly, respectfully. Then Rosie glanced at me. Her eyes said, Go. I stepped forward. The man laughed again and handed me another jerky stick. 2 sticks, 2 dogs. Balance in the universe restored. Then the man pointed down the road and said, You two better get home. Your humans are going to lose their minds. Rosie wagged like, yes, probably. I wagged like, we are technically on a mission. And then, with our mouths still flavored with victory, we trotted away. We followed the road until the smell of water appeared. Not just any water, moving water. A creek. It glittered under the moonlight, sounding like it was laughing. Rosie stopped at the bank, eyes shining. I stopped too, because Chessies don't just see water, we feel it. We remember it in our bones. Rosie stepped closer. The water was cold, probably icy. Rosie liked that. I liked it too. In theory. Rosie glanced at me. Swim? I glanced at Rosie. Swim. We stepped in. Cold wrapped around my legs like surprise. Rosie didn't flinch. Rosie was built for cold. Rosie was basically a fuzzy submarine. We paddled in together. Not far, just enough to feel the current tug at us like a playful hand. Then Rosie did something strange. She sniffed the air above the water, eyes narrowing. She turned her head toward the trees. Then she growled, low, focused. And in that moment, I knew something was here. Not a human, not a deer. Something smaller, something faster, something flying. A shadow moved in the branches, a tiny darting silhouette. Rosie's whole body stiffened. My heart thumped. Rosie whispered with her breath, Flying squirrel. The shadow leapt, glided, sailed from one tree to another like a little night kite. Rosie's jaw dropped in awe and rage and hunger all at once. I stared too, fascinated, because, okay, that thing was kind of magical. Rosie took one step forward, then another, then stopped, as if she remembered we were on a mission and not allowed to start an international incident. Rosie looked at me like, "Do we chase?" I looked back like, "Do we even know what diplomacy is?" Rosie huffed. I huffed. Then, like two professionals deciding to postpone chaos for later, we turned away. But Rosie didn't stop staring until the squirrel vanished into the dark. Later, her eyes promised.
Back at the house, I was not calm. I was in full mom detective mode. Flashlight, yes. Shoes on the wrong feet? Also yes. Voice reduced to an urgent whispery yell? Absolutely. Rosie's dad came out too, half asleep, hair doing something ambitious. "What's happening?" he asked. "The dogs are gone," I said. His face changed instantly from sleepy to, "Oh no." We searched. We called their names softly at first, then louder. "Emmi! Rosie!" Nothing. But the air had that quiet, taunting stillness of a world where dogs are currently having the best time of their lives. We walked down the road. We checked neighbors. We listened for tags. And then, a sound. In the distance. A jingle. Two jingles. Getting closer. Fast. They came out of the dark like two shadows with happy faces. Emmi first, eyes bright, tongue out, looking like she'd personally invented adventure. Rosie beside her, equally pleased, equally unstoppable. They trotted toward us with the swagger of dogs who had just completed a quest and definitely did not understand why we were holding flashlights like pitchforks. I ran to Emmi. Rosie's dad ran to Rosie. We knelt. We grabbed collars. We checked paws and noses and hearts. They were fine. Not just fine, thriving. Emmi leaned into me like, "Hello, Mama. I have returned. You are welcome." Rosie leaned into her dad like, "We did a thing. It was important." "What were you thinking?" I whispered, voice shaking, half fear, half relief. Emmi blinked at me with perfect innocence. Rosie blinked too. Twin innocence, twin lies. Then Emmi sneezed, and Rosie sneezed at the same time, and I knew right then I would never get the full truth. But later, when we got home and I poured water and gave them towels and tried to breathe like a normal person again, I noticed something on Emmi's breath, something very specific. Beef jerky. I looked at Rosie, Rosie looked back, and Rosie, I swear, smiled. The next morning, both dogs were angels. Too angelic. They lay on their beds like saints. They listened to sit and stay like they had been born to obey. Rosie's dad sipped coffee and said, "They're being so good." I did not trust it. Not for 1 second. Because Emmi and Rosie would glance at each other across the room and their eyes would flicker like code. A blink, a tail twitch, a tiny huff. And I realized something with the clarity of a person who has accidentally adopted two masterminds. Last night wasn't the plan. Last night was the rehearsal. The real plan was coming, and it was going to be bigger.
My dad thinks I am a sweet dog. I am a sweet dog, but I am also an athlete, a swimmer, a hunter, a finder of snacks. And when I met Emmi, I knew immediately, this dog is my mirror, my partner, my fellow professional. Emmi has good instincts. She knows where food lives in cabinets. She knows how to look innocent while chewing. But Emmy has not seen the world, not like I have. So I showed her the lake, the cold water, the way your muscles sing when you dive into winter and come out stronger. I told her about the flying squirrel, not because we must chase it immediately, but because every hero needs a rival. Then I told her the most important truth. Humans are slow. Humans are sleepy. Humans keep snacks in places they think dogs cannot reach. Humans are wrong. So I made a map. Not on paper, a map in my nose. A map of smells. Gas station, jerky, trash can, creek, squirrel. Next time we go farther. Next time we find the place that smells like hot chicken and fries. Next time we swim in a bigger river. Next time we return with stories that make humans cry laugh and then hug us until their arms get tired. Because that is the reward. Not just food, not just adventure, but the way humans look at you when you come home safe, like you are the whole world. I nudged Emmy's paw under the table. Tap. She tapped back. Tap. We were ready.
That afternoon, Rosie's dad was packing the car because they had to head back to their state soon. Rosie watched him carefully, then looked at Emmi. Emmi looked at Rosie, and I could see it, the sadness tucked inside the excitement like a little note in a pocket. Twins don't like to split, especially twins who have just discovered they can become legends together. Rosie walked to Emmi and pressed her forehead gently against Emmi's. Emmi pressed back. Then Rosie did something I didn't expect. Rosie turned to me and sat, very straight, very serious. And in her eyes was a message as clear as spoken words. Promise me you'll take care of her. Promise me you'll let her have adventures. Promise me you'll keep snacks. I laughed because what else do you do when a dog stares at you like a tiny attorney? I promise, I whispered. Rosie's tail thumped once, satisfied. Then Rosie looked at Emmi again, and Emmi's eyes softened. And right there in the warm afternoon light, I realized something. This wasn't just a runaway story. This was a friendship story, a twin story, a we found each other even though the world is big story. And it was only beginning. That night, as Rosie slept by her dad's suitcase, Emmi curled nearby. They were quiet, but not asleep, because I saw the paw taps one last time. Tap, tap. Then Rosie leaned in close and licked Emmi's ear. Emmi licked Rosie's ear back. A promise, a pact. Rosie's tail wagged once. Emmi's tail wagged once. And then Emmi rested her chin on Rosie's paws like she was saying, "Come back." Rosie's eyes blinked slowly. "I will." And then Rosie closed her eyes, and Emmi did too. And in the quiet, I felt the world settle into something gentle. Because even the wildest stories sometimes end with a soft heartbeat and two dogs who found their match. A twin story, a we found each other even though the world is big story. And it was only beginning. Morning in the house had the vibe of a courtroom where the defendants were fluffy, smug, and absolutely convinced the judge was going to forget the charges. Emmi lay on her bed with her paws perfectly tucked, eyes half-lidded like she'd joined a monastery. Rosie mirrored her exactly, except Rosie's innocent face had a faint sparkle of victory in it, the kind of sparkle you'd see on a pirate after finding treasure. I watched them sip water like angels. Then I noticed it. Emmi's whiskers had a tiny smear of something dark. Rosie's tongue flicked once in a suspiciously satisfied way. "Did you eat something you weren't supposed to?" I asked. Two faces turned toward me, two heads tilted. Same angle, same expression, same lie. Rosie's dad chuckled. They're practicing their alibis. I didn't laugh. I pointed a finger like a detective. I want you to know, I told them, I am not fooled. Emmi blinked slowly. Rosie blinked slowly. And I swear they were thinking the same thought. Good. We like a challenge.
When the sun came up, I felt proud. I also felt hungry. I always feel hungry, but this hunger was special. This hunger was flavored with adventure. Rosie and I lay very still because we learned something important. Humans do not like it when you become a legend at midnight. Humans get loud and worried and do the flashlight thing. So today we were calm. We were good girls. We were sweet dogs. We were, please forget we have feet. Rosie looked at me out of the corner of her eye. I looked back. Rosie's ear twitched once. That meant meeting later, secret place. I understood immediately because I am smart and because Rosie and I have the same kind of brain, the kind that can smell a sandwich through a closed door and also remember exactly where the peanut butter lives. Later, when the humans were doing human things, Rosie and I met behind the couch. It was not a perfect hiding place, but it was symbolic. Rosie pressed her nose to mine. Her breath smelled like lake water and confidence. She nudged my paw. Tap. I tapped Mac. Tap. Then she did the biggest upgrade yet. She slowly, dramatically reached her paw out and tapped my paw 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. That meant the next one is big. My tail thumped. Yes, big was good. Big meant more smells, more water, more food.
I had limited time. My dad was packing. Suitcase, shoes. We should hit the road soon. That kind of talk. Humans always say soon like it's a thing you can measure. I measure in snacks. So I needed to give Emmi a proper plan, not a midnight improv, a mission. I watched the humans for patterns. Humans are very pattern-based. They wake up, they drink hot water that smells weird, they stare at glowing rectangles, they go into the kitchen and do the sacred actions, open cabinet, open fridge, drop crumbs. Then they leave the room sometimes and forget the most important truth. Dogs are always paying attention. I gathered intel. Pantry shelf, treats, peanut butter, crackers, counter zone, bread, sometimes cheese, trash can, locked with a lid but not invincible, back door, sometimes not clicked shut all the way. Then I found the big one, the holy smell, the smell of fried chicken drifting in the air from somewhere down the road, faint but undeniable. I froze, sniffed again. Yes, a place existed nearby where humans traded money for crispy meat. That place would be our North Star. I looked at Emmi. She was already staring at the same direction. Good. The twin connection was strong. I tapped her paw twice. Tap, tap. Meaning diner, chicken, destiny. Emmi's eyes widened like moons. Perfect.
If dogs could read minds, Emmi and Rosie would have seen my brain writing a full security memo. 2 deadgrass Chessies with identical faces and 0 respect for bedtime. Action plan, do not underestimate them, ever. So we did what humans always do when we love something and fear it at the same time. We tried to outsmart it. Rosie's dad clipped leashes on. Extra careful. I double-checked the back door lock like it owed me money. We gave them extra playtime, extra attention, extra tired puppy hope. Because the classic human logic goes like this: a tired dog is a safe dog. But Chesapeake Bay Retrievers are not built on normal logic. They're built on marsh water, stubborn courage, and a secret fuel source called "If I Feel Like It." Emmi and Rosie ran in the yard. They wrestled, they zoomed, they did enough athletic stunts to qualify for a dog Olympics. Then they came inside and flopped down like rag dolls. Rosie's dad smiled. "See? They're exhausted." I glanced at them. Emmi had one eye half open. Rosie had one ear pointed at the pantry. Exhausted? Sure, in the way a volcano is sleeping.
Humans always do this thing. They close their eyes and stop moving and pretend the world will just pause. It is adorable. Rosie and I waited. We waited through the quiet. We waited through the soft breathing. We waited until the house had that deep stillness, the kind that says humans are in the dream world now. They cannot hear the stealthy toe beans. Rosie lifted her head first. I lifted mine second. We looked at each other. Rosie's eyes said, "Go time." My eyes said, "Chicken time." We stood slowly, like we were made of clouds. We tiptoed. Yes, tiptoed. It is possible. We are professionals. We reached the hallway. The moonlight laid itself across the floor again like a secret road. Rosie paused at the kitchen entrance and sniffed. The smell was stronger tonight. Fried chicken. Somewhere out there, calling. Rosie looked at the back door. I looked too. Then Rosie did something bold. She walked to the door like she owned it, pressed her nose to the seam, and gently, carefully nudged. The latch clicked. The door opened a fraction. My heart thumped so loud I thought it would wake the humans. Rosie's tail swished once, controlled, proud. I thought, this is why she is my twin. She is brave, she is genius, she is slightly insane. Rosie slipped out, I slipped out. The cold air hit us like a refreshing slap. We were free again.
Outside, Emmi and Rosie moved like two perfectly matched shadows, trotting down the road with tails held at confident angles. If you saw them from far away, you'd think, what nice dogs on a late walk. If you saw them up close, you'd notice the truth. Their eyes had that bright, laser-focused look of two creatures who had turned snack craving into a lifestyle. They followed the scent, down the street, past a quiet yard, past a sleepy mailbox, past a tree that probably held a flying squirrel watching from above like a tiny villain in a cape. The scent strengthened. Not just chicken now, also fries, also something sweet. The world ahead glowed faintly, a late-night diner, lights humming, cars occasionally pulling in and out. The parking lot was mostly empty, but to Emmi and Rosie, it might as well have been a kingdom. And the trash bins behind it, that was the castle pantry.
The diner was alive. Humans inside. Noise, clinking, smells like heaven got deep fried. But we were not going in the front. That's amateur stuff. That's how you get noticed. We went around back. I found the bins immediately. Big, dark, delicious. I sniffed. Chicken bones? Maybe. Fries? Definitely. Something wrapped in paper? Almost certainly. Emmi came beside me, eyes shining like she could already taste victory. We worked together. I nudged the lid, Emmi nudged the side. We synchronized like we were born in the same litter, even though we weren't. The lid lifted just enough. A smell burst out that made my brain sparkle. Chicken. Not fresh, but still powerful, still worth it, still dinner. Then I heard footsteps.
I froze. Emmi froze. We flattened ourselves like we were suddenly very committed to the concept of being the ground. A back door creaked open. A human stepped out with a bag. He tossed it into the bin like it meant nothing, like it wasn't treasure. He turned to go back inside. I took the risk. I wagged once, very friendly. He paused, looked down, and saw two identical dogs staring up at him with the most polite faces we could manufacture. His eyebrows rose. "Where did you two come from?" Emmi tilted her head. I tilted mine. He laughed, soft. "You're not strays. You look, well, fed." "Yes, thank you. We work hard." Then the human did the unbelievable. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a chicken strip, a single strip, a golden, crispy line of glory. He held it out like a peace offering. I stepped forward and took it gently because diplomacy matters. Then I looked at Emmi. I nudged the strip toward her because twins share treasure. Emmi's eyes got watery and she took a bite. We chewed together. 2 dogs, 1 chicken strip, a bond sealed with grease. The human shook his head, smiling. "You two are something else," he murmured. "But you better get home." Home. Yes, eventually. But first, I sniffed the air again. The creek was nearby. Water called. We had eaten, now we needed to celebrate properly. We needed a victory swim.
Rosie led me to the creek like it was a sacred place. The moon made the water shimmer like silver. I stepped in and felt the cold bite my legs. But then my muscles remembered, my fur remembered, my Chessie heart remembered. This is what we are made for. Rosie paddled beside me, smooth and fearless. I paddled too, and the water wrapped around us like a secret. We swam in circles, not far, just enough to feel wild and alive. Then Rosie barked softly, not loud, not a warning, a signal. I turned my head. I saw it, a shadow in the trees, a little gliding shape, flying squirrel, Rosie's rival, Rosie's obsession. It launched from one branch to another, floating like a leaf that decided to become a superhero. Rosie's whole body tensed. I tensed too, because even though I did not hate the flying squirrel personally, I respected the drama. Rosie looked at me. Chase? I looked at Rosie. Chase. We burst out of the water and ran, dripping, paws pounding the earth. The flying squirrel darted up a tree, then launched again, gliding to another trunk. Rosie chased like lightning. I chased like a second lightning, slightly louder and more excited. The squirrel zigged. We zagged. The squirrel glided again and landed on a low branch. For one glorious second, it was close enough to smell. It smelled like tree and night and audacity. Rosie stopped short, eyes blazing. Then the squirrel squeaked, loud, angry, tiny, and Rosie froze. Not because she was scared, because she realized something. This was not food. This was not prey. This was a full personality in fur. The squirrel glared at us like it had a tiny lawyer in its chest. Rosie blinked. I blinked. We stood there, 2 wet dogs staring at a creature that looked like it could write a complete letter. Rosie huffed. The squirrel squeaked again. Then Rosie trotted back toward the creek. I followed, giggling inside, because we had just been yelled at by a flying squirrel. I didn't even know that was possible.
Meanwhile, back at the house, we humans woke up to the same awful truth as the night before. Too much quiet. Too much empty. Too much, where are the dogs? We grabbed leashes, flashlights, coats. Rosie's dad's voice was tight. Not again. We called their names. We scanned the yard. We checked the road. And then, because humans are predictable, we did the thing dogs always count on. We followed the sound of our own panic into the night. The flashlight beams swept across grass, across mailboxes, across the distant glow of the diner. And then we saw it. 2 shapes, 2 tails, 2 identical silhouettes trotting back toward us, both dripping water like they had just emerged from an epic tale.
We saw the flashlights. We heard our names. Rosie's ears perked. My ears perked. We looked at each other like, uh-oh, humans. Rosie's eyes said, act normal. My eyes said, we are normal. We are just damp. We trotted toward them. Mama ran up to me and grabbed my collar with shaking hands. Rosie's dad grabbed Rosie's collar the same way. They were worried. I wanted to tell Mama, I am okay. I am brave. I am alive. Also, I ate chicken. But humans don't understand important details. Mama pressed her face into my neck and breathed me in like she was counting heartbeats. I licked her cheek. I tried to look sorry. Rosie tried too. We were very convincing. Then Mama paused. Her nose wrinkled. Her eyes narrowed. "What is that smell?" she whispered. Oh no, I had forgotten. Chicken has a scent, a glorious scent, a scent that says, I have committed a delicious crime. Mama looked at Rosie. Rosie looked away. Mama looked at me. I blinked innocently. Mama sighed the deep sigh of a person realizing she has been outsmarted by a dog in a wet coat. You too, she said, are unbelievable. Rosie wagged. I wagged, because yes, we are.
The next morning, Rosie's dad really did have to leave. Suitcase, car, road trip smell again. Rosie stood by the door, tail low this time, eyes flicking to Emmi. Emmi stood close, shoulder touching shoulder. No paw taps now, no secret codes, just 2 dogs who had found their mirror in the world. Rosie nudged Emmi's cheek gently. Emmi leaned into it. Rosie's dad clipped the leash on, and Rosie stepped forward, then turned back. She looked at me, then at Emmi. And that look held a promise. Not a maybe, a when. Because friendships like this don't just disappear. They become traditions. They become annual meetups. They become matching bandanas and repeat adventures and stories the humans tell while shaking their heads and laughing. Rosie and Emmi pressed foreheads one last time. Then Rosie walked to the car. Emmi watched until the car turned the corner and the road swallowed it. Then Emmi came back to me, curled against my leg, and sighed. And in that sigh was everything. The fun, the fear, the love, the wildness, the snack dreams, and the certainty that somewhere out there another deadgrass Chessie was staring at a creek thinking, soon.
That night, I sat by the window. The world outside was quiet, but I could smell things. Cold air, trees, the faint memory of chicken, and under it all, a new smell. Not a real smell, a heart smell, a friendship smell. Rosie was gone, but she wasn't really gone, because when you find your twin in the world, it leaves a mark, a paw print inside your chest. I rested my chin on the windowsill and closed my eyes. In my mind, Rosie and I were already running again. twin tides, twin shadows, twin hunters of food. And when the time came, when Rosie returned, we would do it all again. But next time, we'd bring a bigger plan, and maybe a map.
And just like that, the adventure settles back into quiet pause and familiar places. Thank you for spending this time with us, for listening, and for sharing the journey with Emmi and Rosie. If their story made you smile, laugh, or feel a little warmth in your heart, please remember to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories keep finding their way into the world. Until next time, may your days be gentle, your adventures meaningful, and your heart always find its way home.